The moment he realized what he was seeing, his heart seemed to slam into his ribs and stop there, stunned, breathless, exposed in the same way he suddenly felt she was. The ocean roared behind him, gulls cried overhead, and yet everything inside Michael Carter went terrifyingly silent as his eyes locked onto the one person he never expected to see like this. His boss, standing just a few steps away on a sunlit beach, frozen in a moment that would change both of their lives forever. Before the story pulls you deeper into that moment, take a second to breathe with it, and if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet ways people heal each other, please like this video, share it with someone who loves emotional stories, subscribe to the channel for more real, heart-touching narratives, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. Michael had not planned to be at the beach that morning. Life as a single father rarely allowed room for spontaneity, let alone leisure. His mornings were usually defined by packed lunches, mismatched socks, and the soft weight of responsibility that never left his chest. But his 8-year-old son, Oliver, had begged him all week, eyes hopeful and voice cracking just enough to break through Michael's exhaustion. So there they were, the two of them, standing at the edge of the water on a bright Saturday morning, the salt air sharp and clean, the world briefly wide open again. Michael had learned to survive by keeping his head down. Since his wife passed away 3 years earlier, every part of his life had become about endurance. He worked long hours at a marketing firm not because he loved the job, but because stability mattered more than fulfillment now. His boss, Catherine Reynolds, was known for being brilliant, distant, and impossibly composed. She was the kind of woman who walked into a room and made everyone stand a little straighter. Michael respected her deeply, admired her leadership, and carefully kept his personal life separate from work. That boundary felt essential to survival. What he did not know was that Catherine had chosen the same beach that day for similar reasons. After years of relentless pressure, expectations, and a divorce that had hollowed her out more than she ever admitted, she had come alone, hoping the ocean might remind her what it felt like to exist without being needed by everyone. For the first time in months, she had allowed herself to feel unguarded. The wind, the sun, the anonymity of strangers, it all felt like permission to be human again. Michael had turned away from Oliver for just a moment, scanning the shoreline to make sure his son was safe among the waves and laughter. When he turned back, his eyes landed somewhere they shouldn't have, somewhere they never intended to be. Catherine stood near the waterline, towel clutched against her chest, eyes wide, shock mirrored perfectly between them. Time did not slow gently. It crashed, violently, like a wave against stone. In that instant, Michael was not a man staring. He was a man frozen by fear, embarrassment, and the sudden collapse of carefully constructed walls. His mind raced with apologies he could not voice, explanations that would only make things worse. Catherine, equally stunned, felt the familiar armor of professionalism crack under the weight of vulnerability. For once, she was not in control. The moment passed, awkward and fragile. Michael looked away, heart pounding, face burning, shame flooding his chest. He gathered Oliver and moved farther down the beach, his hands shaking as he pretended everything was fine. But nothing was fine. The ocean no longer felt calming. It felt loud, intrusive, like it knew what had just happened and refused to let it disappear. For the rest of the day, Michael replayed the moment again and again, each time feeling worse. He worried about Monday, about consequences, about the possibility that this accident could cost him the job that kept his son safe and fed. Catherine, on her drive home, felt something else entirely. Beneath the embarrassment was a strange, aching realization that she had been seen not as a title, not as a figure of authority, but as a person, flawed, exposed, real. Monday arrived like a storm cloud. Michael barely slept, his anxiety wrapping around him tighter with every passing hour. When he was called into Catherine's office, his legs felt heavy, his breath shallow. He expected anger, reprimand, maybe even dismissal. What he found instead was silence, thick and thoughtful. Catherine looked different that day. Still composed, still sharp, but something in her eyes had softened. She did not mention the beach immediately. Instead, she asked about his workload, his son, his well-being in a way that caught him off guard. It was the first time anyone at work had acknowledged the weight he carried so quietly. When the moment finally surfaced, it was not with accusation but with honesty. Both of them acknowledged the accident without dramatizing it, without turning it into something it was not. What could have been humiliating became human. What could have broken trust quietly rebuilt it. Over the weeks that followed, something subtle shifted. Catherine began to notice Michael not just as an employee, but as a man whose resilience was etched into every tired smile. Michael began to see Catherine not just as his boss, but as someone carrying her own invisible scars. Their conversations remained professional, but warmth crept in, unexpected and steady. Life did not suddenly become easy. Michael still struggled with guilt, with exhaustion, with the constant fear of failing his son. Catherine still battled loneliness, the pressure of leadership, and the echo of a life she once imagined. But now, there was understanding. A shared moment of vulnerability had opened a door neither of them knew they needed. The real turning point came months later, not in a dramatic confession or grand gesture, but in a quiet act of kindness. When Michael had to leave work early because Oliver was sick, Catherine covered for him without hesitation. When Catherine faced a difficult board decision, Michael supported her with insight and loyalty beyond expectation. Trust grew not from attraction, but from respect. Slowly, carefully, their connection deepened. Not rushed, not hidden, but grounded in patience. They learned each other's rhythms, fears, and hopes. The beach incident became less of a wound and more of a reminder that life has a strange way of introducing people when they are most unguarded. Years later, Michael would watch Oliver laugh freely along the same shoreline, stronger now, happier. Catherine would stand beside him, no longer just his boss, but his partner in a life built on understanding rather than perfection. The ocean would still roar, time would still move forward, but that frozen moment of accidental exposure had led them somewhere unexpectedly beautiful. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that healing often begins in the most uncomfortable moments, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive and reaching others who may feel alone. Please comment below and tell us what part of this story stayed with you the most, or what it made you feel. Because sometimes, the moments that embarrass us, scare us, or leave us frozen are the very ones that quietly guide us toward connection, compassion, and a second chance at something real.